Hey everybody, Tommy here. I have an announcement about this upcoming episode. It's kind of a special one because this was the original pilot episode of StoryFellas. This was the very first episode we recorded, so you might hear us do intros again. You might hear us be a little unsure about things as we're going through it. When we originally started this show and launched it, we wanted to start with a few other episodes, so we sidelined this one, but we still really liked the story. We still wanted to share it. We don't want it to end up in the trash bin, so we're sharing it now. You get to experience us fumble our way through the very first episode of StoryFellas. Hope it's fun. Hope it's a little treat. Hope it's a little blast from the past, a little time travel StoryFellas edition. Hope you guys enjoy it, and that's all I have to say. Here comes the intro right about now.
They ran away. And although I like this idea that this girl being taken care of by a 15-year-old, probably her brother. Oh, dude, I'm going dark in my head, dude. I'm going dark in my head.
Don't go that dark. Take a pivot.
No, I'm not going like incest.
Well, this is a drama, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm actually like really trying to tap back into is like, okay, what can happen here?
Welcome to StoryFellas, the podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I am Tommy Antonucci.
And I am Zach Lovelace.
Welcome, Zach. This is our first episode of a podcast that we've been talking about for a very long time.
Yeah, well, we technically did a test for the test.
We did a test for the test, many layers of tests, but it was too open world when we did our first thing. We didn't really have any rules for ourselves, and we're rule guys.
We're rule guys.
Stories.
We're
love
rule
rules.
guys.
We're rule guys. We rule.
We rule. It's Burger King. You rule.
But this podcast is a podcast that we've been wanting to make, where a lot of times we will spend long times on the phone just discussing story ideas and working through concepts and trying to make each other laugh or trying to make a ridiculous idea very grounded. And we just thought, what if we turned that into a podcast? What if we did the exact same thing and just hit the record button at the same time? Yeah,
and that's exactly right. I love the idea of taking some of our most absurd, inside joke things, and you keep pushing it and see if you can't attach. It's kind of like Legos. You keep attaching different aspects to it, and eventually you get something entirely different. And so you start with a really crazy idea, and eventually you have something that's got legs or wheels.
Yep. Or wheels or rocket jets or something like that. And
wings, something,
Yeah, all of it, man. The key thing that people should know is you don't know what's about to happen. You don't know the outline of this podcast.
I don't even know what I'm doing here. We worked together for less than a week, dude. And I get a crazy email from you saying, I want to do a podcast about some ideas that I had. And, all right, dude, I got nothing better to do.
I was going to say, what does that say about you? That you're just like, yeah, I guess so.
Either way, we're both huge losers.
All right. Well, let's share. Zach, you want to give a quick, 1 to 2 minute, your backstory? Why do you like stories? What has drawn you to stories in the past?
Yeah. So I have always loved stories. I think that's kind of a common trope in the story end of the story lover end of content creators, that stories have always spoken to me. And I grew up reading comic books. I wanted to be a comic book artist for a long, long time. I won most artistic at my high school because I just drew in every single class. And then I graduated and didn't want to be a comic book artist anymore. And I kind of fell butt backwards into a student film festival and fell in love with filmmaking. And of course, most people in 90s kids love film, love TV. So I grew up watching lots of stuff, 90s X-Men, Spider-Man, pretty comic adjacent things. Again, comics were my first love. And I've always loved having a good time with folks. So when I ended up working alongside Tommy Antonucci at a ministry where we were making Christian television, we just couldn't help but have a good time and bust a gut laughing about dumb ideas and not taking life too seriously. So that's a little bit of my background. Again, I'm a filmmaker. I'm a writer primarily. I think that's just where most of my interest lies. And I like making people laugh. And again, I used to draw a lot, don't draw that much anymore.
Well, I want to say that you are very good at making people laugh. You are also very good at art. I really like your drawings. I really like your comics and your concepts and stuff. And I wish I could draw half as well as you do.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. Is that the point of this podcast? Is you're just going to compliment me the whole time?
Well, I read it exactly as you wrote it. Did that sound good?
That sounded great. Yeah, that's great, actually.
Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
Actually, can we do it again?
Cool.
Can we do it again?
Yeah. I'll embellish. It's like, I wish I could draw as half as well as you.
Yeah, you skipped the part about thinking I'm hot. Like you skipped that.
Oh, sorry. I don't know how I missed that. It's underlined and it's written in red crayon.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'll save that for the end.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
We'll come back to your
you can edit it back in. That's fair.
I'll edit it back in with the magic of editing. A quick 1 to 2 minute update on me is very similar. I grew up with like little old school cameras, and I just loved the old school camera, and I loved just making dumb little movies with my brother and our friends, and just like doing the cheesiest effects and probably star wipes and stuff because I was using Windows Movie Maker back in the day, and just like playing with it and just having fun using our imagination. And that kind of like dwindled over time as I just kind of grew up and stuff. And when I was in college, I was going to study biblical studies, but then I just was unsure if I wanted to like permanently work in like a church environment. And I got advice from some other people, and they were like, you can always come back to this, but you might want to, if you're not sure, then maybe study something else. So I was studying business for a little bit, and I made friends with a ton of people in our cinematic arts program. We had a film program, and I just remember myself just being like, man, what you guys do is like so interesting to me. Like it was like so exciting to me. And over time, I just realized I'm like, well, maybe I could do this. And I decided to hop into the film program, learned a lot about film production, about editing, cameras, all the works, audio. I got pigeonholed as an audio guy for a long time. And I've been blessed and lucky enough to hop from job to job and be able to do video a lot along the way, and met Zach in Christian ministry, laughed super hard, which is funny. You would think that from the outside, you might think Christian ministry would be like a very stingy or like very pompous thing, but the crew that we were working with back in those days were super fun, laughed super hard in those days. And here I am today, still very blessed to still be able to do video. And I feel like I just turned 30, and I feel like over this decade, I've learned like a lot more about story, a lot more about the craft, not just like hitting the buttons, but actually like helping people understand the beats of how a story should work, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally.
I was talking to a coworker earlier, and I was like, what we do kind of is, yeah, we like film and we run cameras and stuff, but what we do is kind of real life inception. Like we make ideas digestible. We make concepts like desired, kind of.
Yeah, you give them.
That's kind of
you embody them. You give them a body. You give them something to be seen and interacted with.
Yeah, definitely. So that's our intro. Hope if you guys want more, following you. I'm sure you'll find out more with time.
We can go deeper. We can go way deeper.
We can go deeper. When I was 2.
Yeah, exactly. My parents are divorced.
Gosh. And it gets real heavy.
Yeah.
You'll learn Zach's got that nice balance of goofball and dark humor, and that's really draws me to his humor.
I was going to say it's something that Tommy really enjoys. So
it makes me laugh a lot. I want to hop into the meat of this, Zach. I want to make
show me the meat, man. Show me the meat.
I want to. Can I get that one more time clean?
Oh yeah. Show me the meat.
Perfect. That's all I needed. All right, cool. So this is how this is going to work, Zach. I have a handful of categories and a handful of, I say, randomly generated assets that will help us start off on a story.
Okay.
And I would love you to roll for some of this. And I did not prep you with getting any type of dice, but if you type in roll a dice into Google, there should be like a dice rolling simulator that will pop up. And if you don't, I have it in front of me too, so that
you want a 6-sided dice or do you want a 20-sided dice?
So first off, I do want to ask you this, because one of the categories is genre, which I think would be fun to do. Actually, this is what we're going to do. I think for this first episode, we're going to, let's do the genre, because I think we can see how we feel about it. I know that we lean towards comedy a lot, so down the road, if we decide to nix the whole genre aspect, we can. But I'll leave it to you. Do you want to do this genre, or do you want a little open space that we could do it any genre we feel for this first one?
Do I choose the genre, or do we
You're gonna roll, and we're gonna randomly choose a genre.
Let's randomly choose a genre, dude.
All right. Well, I need you to roll a 10-sided die for me.
A 10-sided?
Okay. A 10-sided die.
All right, let's see.
10 sides on it.
There we go. All right. And can I get rid of this one? Oh, there we go. Cool. And we're going to say go. I rolled a 3.
You rolled a 3?
Yeah.
All right. Our genre that we are doing is drama. Just a straightforward drama.
Boring.
All right, and boring. Oh, I'm gonna hang up. Next, I need you to roll a 10-sided die for a story prompt, and this is going to be our base story.
All right, you're gonna have to add a die sound effect in here, because all I do is click, and it's really boring. A 6.
A 6?
Yeah.
Okay. A 6. Here's our story prompt. A man witnesses a kid shoplifting. When he tries to set things right, things take an unexpected turn.
Okay.
So that's our story about a man who witnesses a shoplift. Okay. A drama about a kid shoplifting. And I do need you to roll one more 10-sided die for me.
All right, let's see. I'm rolling. You tell me when to stop. This thing is going full Jumanji, just going down the stairs.
Oh, man. Just going down the stairs. I'll just leave the sound effect going for like an hour.
It's still going, folks. I just stopped it.
Stop it.
Okay. I got a 1.
You got a 1. Okay.
It's like Mario Party. You do all that just to get a 1.
Okay, so the 1. So this is something that I call the random requirement, and this is we have our story, we have our genre, but this is something that needs to take place or needs to be a facet of the story. And by rolling a 1, you got one of the main characters has to be a non-human CGI character.
Okay, that's great.
All right, so those are our.
So we have a drama.
That's where we are.
About a man who's witnessed the shoplifting, and he decides to basically take the kid under his wing and try and help him out.
Yeah. So he witnesses shoplifting, and we can even take some notes on these things as we go.
Yeah.
I'll take some notes as we go. But we have a guy, and let's have a name for this guy. Our protagonist of this man.
Yeah. Okay. The man.
Any names?
His name is Roger.
Roger, the man.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Where these are just going to be some rapid fire questions to get us rolling. Where is he? Where is this shoplifting taking place?
Rio de
Because it's a
Janeiro.
kid. Rio de Janeiro?
Yeah.
I am not familiar with Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, you don't know about the capital of? Is it the capital of Brazil?
city, yeah, it's the capital of Brazil. So this is where, like, I was asking for a store. Is this what you're saying? This is like the city it's in?
Oh, okay. You wanted a store. Sorry, I thought you meant like where in the world. But you already just assumed.
Let's put him in Rio de Janeiro.
No, we can go crazier. We can go like Qatar or something, like a Muslim country.
Wherever you want him, man. I just was asking, what is this kid shoplifting? I was trying to figure out where the store he's at.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you. So let's just put him in America. You know, it'll make it a little easier. We won't get wrapped up in all the Portuguese details here. Sorry for you Portuguese listeners who got really excited about that.
They're on the edge of their seats.
They're in a town called Bruxy, Indiana.
Bruxy, Indiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Bruxy, Indiana.
I like that.
And it's just a medium suburban town just outside of Indianapolis. You know, it's not anything to write home about. It's safe. You know, people commute into the city. But this man Roger has watched this child shoplift. Let's see. Let's go with some rock climbing gear.
Oh, okay. I assume that means he's in to some sort of outdoors activity?
Yeah, they're at REI.
He's in this store. They're at REI. Okay, they're at REI. Man, rock climbing, that's like not an easy thing to shoplift.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
Okay.
And I guess we could get more specific because rock climbing gear doesn't really help you out. But let's just say he shoplifted, what are they called? Pinions?
Pinions?
Yeah. Which is going to be, no, come on, don't do this to me. REI, literally Google it. Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist.
No, I want to say basically just the hooks that they use. You know,
like climbing hooks, basically.
Yeah. But
I'm sure there's a better name for those, but climbing hooks.
I thought they were, let's just go with a pair of climbing shoes. You know, there's nothing more classic than stealing a pair of shoes, right?
Yeah, that makes me think of holes, man.
You know? I know. Yeah. So Roger, who's the manager at REI, and he watched this kid.
Oh.
He watched this kid.
He's the manager.
Yeah, he's the manager, and he watched him steal this pair of rock climbing shoes.
Okay. So he sees him stealing. Is this the first time he's noticed this kid stealing things? I assume so. I assume Roger takes his job well, I guess what's more interesting, is he kind of a slacker? Like, is he just trying to get by, or does he take his job super seriously?
I think he is like, you know, he's a live and let live guy, but the kid has kind of pushed it a couple times, you know, and gotten under his skin. You know, I think the kid is what would be called a dirt bag. And I don't mean that. That's a technical term, a technical rock climbing term. This is where you find out that I know nothing about rock climbing except for very basic information. You know, well, basically they're homeless people. They're homeless and they just live to rock climb.
Gotcha.
And so
let's say maybe Roger has witnessed this guy, this kid, I guess, like,
or other kids in the past, like you know, they've had a problem with shoplifting, I think.
Yeah, but they're like stealing like maybe like a Cliff Bar or like a carabiner, but then this one, like a pair of shoes, he's like, I can't let that slide. So he confronts our dirtbag guy, which how about we call him Henry?
Okay. I don't know. I don't really like that name.
All right, we can change it. So what do you want? Is it like a nickname?
Yeah, we can give him a nickname. I like that.
It's like Zero.
Okay, we're channeling the Holes thing.
We just retell the story of Holes.
No, his name won't be Zero. It'll be some other number. Okay, it'll be. His nickname is 15.
I like it. 15. And he also 15 years old?
Yeah, he's thereabout. Yeah, but he has like a
Okay.
little tattoo, I think, of the number 15 on his arm.
Okay. 15. He is 15. He's got a tattoo of 15 on his arm.
Yeah, yeah. It means something, obviously.
Okay. As a 15. Okay, cool. I like that. So I'm just trying to think, opening up this story. So let's take a step back. We kind of meet Roger, and we don't have to hit every beat, but I do want to kind of just flesh out, like, in a story circle, like, who is Roger? Like, what do we see about his life? Like, does he have a worthwhile life? Is he kind of just like getting by, letting people shop
He's
with little
divorced.
things?
He's definitely divorced.
Okay.
Has a daughter that comes to see him. She's in high school, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's a little ashamed of his life. His ex-wife's new husband is way more well off, and so he can actually, where Roger can maybe sell you a canoe, the new stepdaddy can actually take them to go, whitewater rafting. And
He can buy the canoe.
yes,
He's-
he comes in and he
yeah.
buys. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if they make commission at REI, but he did sell it to Roger. And Roger's a floor manager. He's there. He opens up the shop. He's there early in the morning. The thing is, he comes in and he sees this van parked out front several mornings in a
All right.
row. And that's where
Okay.
15 lives.
Okay. 15 lives in the van.
And so he's a little, perturbed. He kind of feels like he's being scoped.
So he's being paranoid, and it's just 15. He only ever sees 15 that lives in the van.
There are other people that come and go from the van, but 15 is the one that comes in and asks to use the bathroom a lot.
Okay. Gotcha.
Or maybe not asks, but
All right.
like comes and buys like a stick of gum so he can use the bathroom that's got a code on it.
Okay. I like that idea. So Roger's kind of doesn't have the really great. I could see that motivating his I don't know, authority, whatever authority he has at his job, because outside his job he doesn't have a lot of control of things. So I feel like that is part of the motivating factor that will lead him to confronting 15 down the road when 15, like, that's like, this is like, yeah, his family stuff's not going great, but he can lay claim of, like, this is my REI, this is my floor of the REI, and you can't do that here, kind of situation.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a character dynamic here that could lead a lot of different directions. There's an engine here that Roger's the more buttoned up. He's got the khakis, he's got the polo. That's his. He usually wears his REI branded things on the weekend, to look better off than he is. But then you have somebody who's a rule breaker, like 15, and that gets under his skin. And they're coming at things from two totally different perspectives.
Gotcha. I feel like I've got a good picture of Roger, which I like. What does Roger want? Like, what is his desire? What does he?
He definitely wants a
like,
better
at his
relationship
core?
with his daughter. He wants a reconciliation. He's lost his family, so he needs to have a family.
I kind of feel like I picture, like, the daughter comes, visits him, and, like, she's like, I picture her kind of relatively friendly, like, she, like, but then, like,
But it's like a
feels
patronizing way. You're like, oh dad, you're not going to do much. She wouldn't say that, but she's like, dad would never take a risk. He wouldn't want. The ex-wife is even like, do you want to invite your dad to come whitewater rafting? Like, no, dad would never want to do that.
Yeah, like, I can see that. I think still loving, like, I don't want it to be like the daughter hates him by any means. Like, I think she's still loving,
No.
but she just kind of has wrapped up this idea of, like, who her dad is.
Yeah, she's believing a
And it's
lie,
like,
or he's presenting a lie about himself that he doesn't want.
Okay.
That he doesn't want more.
I like that. I think that makes sense. Okay, cool. So he wants a better relationship with his family, and then I think 15 is kind of the icing on the cake while he's dealing with this. I, like, imagine a scene where his daughter is like he's been aware of 15. We've seen 15 come in and go a little bit and kind of bother him a little bit. But then the daughter comes, has one of these conversations with her dad, leaves like, hey, we're going whitewater rafting, yada yada. He kind of feels crummy after their conversation, and I feel like that is kind of the inciting incident where he notices 15 trying to steal some climbing shoes.
Yeah, he's just coming off the tail of some family interaction. Again, the stepdad coming in and asking him if he wants to join them on a trip, and it's just patronizing because he's been kind of emasculated from his own family. He's being invited to go hang out with his own family.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of here. Get out of here. That would get under my skin.
No, I agree. So then cut away, like family goes, he's kind of already upset. He witnesses 15 stealing shoes, and we need to paint this scene a little bit because I think this is where things start. This is where like we start realizing, we also
the CGI character.
We have to include a CGI character.
I got it. So,
right,
so Roger is depressed, right? Because of his life and his divorce and everything. So his best friend is a doctor. Okay. And he goes often to make appointments like a physician. So he's like a family doctor, and he goes and talks to him and stuff. And, he's able to get him a prescription of Zoloft. And this drug, or maybe we can call it something else, it doesn't matter, but he falls asleep one night watching a commercial for this depression drug, and there's like a little animated character in the commercial, and so sometimes the animated character will come out and in the movie.
Yeah, I like that. Like it's like kind of a conscience-esque character, kind of like Jiminy Cricket, or like in Ratatouille where the chef floats around his head and tells him things. Like it's just like an internal, it's like his internal subconscious kind of speaking back to him that he has real life conversations with.
Yeah, exactly. So it can just come whatever this mascot / whatever. Because I remember the old Zoloft commercials. It was like a little ball, and I always thought that was kind of funny. That if some guy, he's just going through the story, and whatever story this was back in the day, and he just saw this little ball following him around, and he would talk to it, and it's just a personification of his depression, and it's a very Eeyore kind of personality that he has to combat.
I think that's cool. I picture some sort of like, whether it's a ball or like a little brain with eyes or something. Like I'm picturing something just small and animated that like flies around that only he can see. And I guess at some point, like it just kind of pops up, and it's introduced to him at some point that he's like,
I think
he acknowledges that it's weird, but he also kind of gives in, like he does converse with this thing as he's trying to make decisions.
And I think it should get darker as it goes on.
Okay.
And it only comes and goes in little blips. It's either that or it's just in a dream sequence, or just in one sequence where he like overdoses on it, the antidepressant drug or whatever, and so he ends up seeing it as that kind of culmination, or he gets like sucked into the commercial. I feel like that would check off that requirement that we've picked up.
Yeah, I feel like I like the idea of it being reintroduced a little bit throughout the story, because it feels like a weird tangent for him to get sucked into a commercial randomly when he's mildly overdosed on his prescriptions. But I don't know. We'll pocket that. I like the ball thing, and if we can find a way to fit that in throughout the rest of the story, then awesome.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what happens when he confronts 15. Like, is it like more of like he catches him in the act, or do we want to have like a chase sequence where it's kind of like he has to chase this
dude?
I'm
getting a little Jungle to Jungle vibes. You ever see Jungle to Jungle?
It's been a hot minute. because that's with Tim Allen, right?
Yeah.
Am I thinking the right?
Yeah, Tim Allen and who is it? The other kid, the big kid in the 90s. Or maybe it wasn't. It just seems like it is. What's the kid's name? Oh, man.
The kid who played the Jungle Kid?
Yeah, yeah. I always feel like it's like a Mandela effect thing that it's, what is the kid from Home Improvement? What is his name? Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Yeah, I feel like it's always Jonathan Taylor Thomas, and I know it's not. It's Sam Huntington.
I think, yeah, Sam Huntington. I'm less familiar with him, but what about the vibes of that? Are you
just like the Jungle Kid? I mean, it just like the kid who basically lives off in the jungle. You know, and
I do like imagine some. Like, I know this is a drama, but I think the dramas can still have some humor in them too. I imagine a mild chase sequence where he's like chasing this very spry, like climber kid who's like, I would imagine like mildly parkoury, and he's not at all. And he has to keep taking like the slow ways around to try to catch this kid.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That he like literally climbs the rock wall in REI. To like get away, you know, maybe he's stealing a Cliff Bar, and he's just like, "Hey, kid," you know, it's the straw that broke the camel's back a little bit for him, and so he like goes to get him, and he ends up just climbing up to the top of the rock wall and just eats the Cliff Bar up there, throws the wrapper down at him.
Yeah,
you know, he's like, if you want me, come and get me, you know.
I like that a lot. That's really funny. If I just saw some people doing a chase in the rock wall inside an REI, that would make me laugh.
Yeah.
We need to introduce this thing of an unexpected turn when and like this is the beginning of it. This confrontation, this like straw that broke the camel's back of them talking is the confrontation. But I want to know, you know me, and I always love to have like a conceit of reality and like change things into like the mildly supernatural or weird.
More magic realism.
But yeah, do you want to go that far, or do you want it to be a bit more grounded?
I feel like it's a bit more grounded. I think we can get a left turn later on by with the characters and the engines that we have. I think we can kind of subvert some expectations based on certain things. I have ideas.
So
in my head
I've got a few ideas as well of what could be this thing, what our unexpected turn is. If we want to go simpler, I'm going to just kind of spitball some and let me know if something stands out to you. Unexpected turn, like this chase gets a little too crazy, too rowdy, and he gets fired. Like he's trying to do the right thing and he loses his job entirely, which is like his last little cling to stuff. He could hurt himself in some way, which could spurn the story in a different direction where
he could get hurt. And the hurt thing doesn't seem to open up enough avenues though. I feel like him getting fired definitely does. It feels at home with him where he's now in the jungle. He's in the wilderness. He's on the frontier.
Yeah. I kind of want to, I'm growing more interested in this like weird dynamic between him and 15, where 15's just like starts as an obstacle. And I imagine that maybe he gets fired. They do this climbing wall thing. Roger accidentally like breaks all this stuff or hurt someone or something like that, and he gets fired. And I feel like there's some sort of like chagrin on 15's part, and I feel like there's something to explore, and I'd like to explore the like dynamic between them afterwards, because I kind of get like a like an Up vibe where it's like the grouchy old man and then the young guy, and then I feel like there's some sort of story.
So I have a weird idea.
I have
a weird idea. So
okay. How weird?
You'll see. So Roger has a boss. Her name's Susan. She's an older woman. And she is a Christian. Okay. So she has a little cross on her neck and everything. And, again, she's the head manager of the REI. There's a little office in the back. that they have a little computer and they can see the security stuff and whatnot. But the rock climbing scene, I think, happens, or some other small interaction happens with 15 between them, and 15's like, basically, chill out, man. And then he doesn't chill out. He like doubles down on him, right? And then the next day, Susan, he gets in there and Susan's already there. Or maybe he's like coming in for a shift later in the day, Roger is, and he comes to the back room and she's like, Roger, what have you been doing on this computer? And he's like, no, what do you mean? She's like, you locked up last night. But when I came in this morning, there was hardcore pornography playing, on this computer. And he's just like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And as she's like saying, it's really bad, obviously, and this isn't a good look. And I don't think I can employ somebody who would do this on company time. Like, it's bad enough as it is. I get, since your wife has divorced you, you might be lonely or whatever. And he's just like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It's like, that's what a guilty guy would say, whatever. As he is like talking to her, he looks up and he sees those, kind of asbestos ceiling tiles they have in schools and stuff, and other like workplaces. And one of them is just slightly askew. And it basically just implies that he then goes outside and he catches 15, or he sees him climbing up the side of the building. And so he like gets up there and he realizes he has a little camp out up there, and it was able to get into the vent and get down in there and get him fired by, or maybe not. Maybe he didn't like try and get him fired. It was just, he was looking at porn and left it and then went up through the ceiling. We have this jungle
That's what
kid.
I thought you were implying before. I
meant it was out of spite.
I don't know.
I meant it was out of spite, but I mean, it could be both. It does, obviously, it could be both. But I just think that's funny and it's interesting, and it plays with Roger being like his boss. He's getting fired for something that isn't like, oh, he bumped over a baby carriage while trying to climb the thing. It's like, or money was stolen. Literally, it doesn't have to be the porn thing. I think that's just funny. But like the van, the people in the van, the dirtbags, they stole money. They decided to just finally knock over the store or whatever. And he's like, I haven't been stealing anything. And so he ends up getting let go. Either way, he ends up getting let go.
Yeah, I think that makes sense of like, yes, whatever the incident is of like, they break in, they do X, Y, or Z. I feel like raising the stakes potentially could help, because I'm trying to think if he's like, I guess it just depends how good and how seriously he takes his job, because like if he's like a pretty good employee, then like they'd probably be like, oh, this doesn't seem like, I just would want it to be believable. You know what I mean?
You would want it to be like just beyond believable. Because like,
well, I just mean like, I don't know, if he was like a good employee, like let's just say he was like a really good manager, and then this fluke thing happened and he's like, it wasn't me, then they'd be like, oh, I believe you. But like, well, he either needs to not be that.
He was the only one there.
Like
he was the only one there. So I do think that there's something to be said where like there's no camera in the office, but they see him. He's like coming and going, and it's like maybe he's like brushing crumbs off of his, you know what I mean? Like he's coming out, and she's like, I can't believe that you would just like sit there and eat a sandwich and then watch this. Like, you should talk to my pastor or whatever. And that's just a fun way to sneak in this nice little side character that's like got a nice little motivation. But yeah, I do think that
I can see that. I can see where it's I feel like tying it back to like him being like them thinking like, oh, like, we get that you're lonely and depressed, and so, like it ties back to his like actual circumstance, which I think does make sense. Like I feel like their employees would be aware, or like his boss would be semi-aware of his situation, and also would jump to conclusions like that.
Totally. And she wouldn't want to hear it. And, I think he could also have to like trash the office too. It could be like, or maybe he has been lonesome in the past. And so it seems like it's part of patterned behavior where maybe he got drunk on his lunch break or something like that. And he came back smelling like alcohol, and they find beer and like the porn and everything like that. And they blame it on him. When in reality it was maybe the funny thing is like maybe the beer was his and it was hidden, but the kid drank it. I don't know. I know that's getting like really into it, but
yeah. And I don't think we need to get too detailed in this thing. Like, I just wanted to know like but I feel like this makes sense. I even feel like if we wanted, and again, this is just like a sprinkling, like if this, after the confrontation with 15, and then that gets resolved, and then he's like trying to close up shop, and maybe he's there by himself, like that could be an instance if we decided there was like this little animated like personification of his depression, which I imagine I kind of think it'd be funny if it was very chipper, like whatever this little thing was. Had a very chipper voice, but always said very like Eeyore-esque things.
It's like Kirby,
like.
And I imagine
like Kirby, but just if Kirby like really bashed on his self-conscious.
Well, it's like Kirby's voice, hi, that kind of thing. And I imagine when Susan is talking to him, it's like it starts to wah 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 out, and the little whatever Zoloft ball thing like pops up over her head, and it's just like you should quit. You should blah blah blah. You should punch her in the face. Whatever. It's like it's his id a little bit. And it's trying to get him to just be suicidal, basically.
Yeah, I think introducing that like after the 15 thing, especially if you introduce him like taking some sort of medication, then you can, that thing like popping up and like having a small discussion with him when it's just him closing up shop, I think is a nice introduction, because then the more it pops up, if it pops up over her head later, then it's like, it's not a surprise. It's like, oh, it's that weird thing I saw again.
Yeah.
And then, so we've gotten past that. He's gotten fired at this point, which I imagine he's upset with 15.
He is. And I imagine maybe he goes outside and is like sitting on the curb, basically. And he like turns in. That's when he sees 15 jumping off the top of the, like shimmying down the building, basically, and like running over to the car, to the van. And that's when he decides to go give him his 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. And and I'm trying to think of what direction we want 15 to take at this point. Like, I imagine he's like flustered and upset, and he gives his big spiel, and he's like, I got fired because of you. Which I guess one factor we need to take into account is, did 15 do this out of spite? Because if he did it out of spite, he's probably not going to be chagrined about it, especially at least immediately, because it was his intention. Whereas if it was like he just went in and it's not about this guy as much as it is like, maybe it is like they stole more stuff, or they stole money, because that's not about him as much as it's about like them trying to get by and get something for themselves.
Yeah. And I think that because there's a line that pops in my head where he's like, you got me fired. And he's like, no, she got you fired. And he like opens the door to the van, and it's some other person in the van. A girlfriend, it's his daughter. No, yeah. His daughter. There. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of like a Mr. White, Jesse Pinkman dynamic here, where Jesse's going to help Mr. White get into the meth game. Okay. So is 15 is going to help Roger here kind of go live beyond his buttoned up life. And so I keep imagining like the door opening and a bunch of smoke comes out, they're just like total potheads, but I'm not a big fan of that. I feel like that's a little too stereotypical a little bit.
Yeah. I feel like they need to be like, I feel like the unexpected turn is that they're not these guys are not what he thought they were. Like, not like they're secret agents or something like that, but like if he like somehow in some way, like 15's like young, and then like, but maybe in the van there's like some woman who's, I don't know, older, like she's like
I like that it's his
30
mom
or something like that.
Oh, well, you mean that? Okay, I was thinking like a new love interest.
I was just saying like it's more like kind of like hodgepodge style family. Like it's like they're not actually related. They're more just like watching out for each other. And like, I don't know, it could be another person, but I'm kind of getting pulled in the direction of like obviously he thinks, he's like, oh, this van is full of these stoner people or something, but maybe it's just like they're not that. And maybe it is his mom. Like maybe it's something more like that where it's like, oh, he's like jumping to conclusions. At first I was thinking like he befriends them and they teach him how to like cut loose and stuff like that. Or we could go the direction of like he sees that they're just like hard on their luck and they're like good people, and
Yeah,
it kind of opens his eyes to that. And I'm not exactly sure which way, because like he's kind of like locked in his life a little bit, so he almost needs something that's a bit more on that carefree side.
I feel like the
to, like,
carefree
challenge
thing
him.
definitely needs to be there. Like either way, I want a scene where Roger is learning how to climb and 15 is teaching him how to like free solo up a wall, up a mountain basically, and then he runs into his daughter and his the new stepdad out there, and it's like, oh, what is he doing? And it's like, this isn't my dad. My dad's like, what are you? Oh my goodness, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I like that. Well, then what about this? What if the van is like he just imagines as like a pot van, but then like when he gets to know them, it's like maybe 15. He's like 15 years old, and then like a girl that's like, I don't know, like 28 or 30. And she's like his sister, 15's sister.
Okay.
And they're just like they're travelers, they're climbers, they're like,
Yeah, they're dirtbags.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm trying to find the latch that will make him like some reason he needs to be caught off guard by that. Like, what is the factor about them that is like, oh, this isn't what I expected
She
guys
could be pregnant
to be like. She's a pregnant dirt
rock
bike
climber. Yeah, that's kind of interesting.
That is interesting. And then
That's compelling.
I'm also trying to like, I'm weary of her becoming his love interest immediately.
Yeah, no, I think that they're
Do you know
both,
what I'm saying?
Yeah, they're under 18. I think that's the thing, is that they ran away. And although I like this idea that this girl being taken care of by a 15-year-old, probably her brother. Oh, dude, I'm going dark in my head, dude. I'm going dark in my head.
Don't go that dark. Take a pivot.
No, I'm not going like incest.
Well,
dark.
this is a drama, I guess.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm actually like really trying to tap back into, is like, okay, what can happen here? And either way, there needs to be an engine of like carefreeness. And so I think the pregnant woman is interesting because he would immediately like take a caring stance. He'd be taken aback more than it would be if it was an older woman with like COPD and an oxygen tank, that you realize that, because basically 15 is Apu, right? He's like a little monkey, and he goes out and he like finds things to to take care of whoever is in there. So like, what if it's just a girl who's in a wheelchair, like the kind of the opposite of a rock climber? Or maybe she used to be a climber and she fell. And so now it's like, she can't really do anything. Her brother wasn't old enough. And so now he like drives around and, she lays on a bed in the back.
What if, I think we're on to something here. I think this is like the crux. Like this is what is going to motivate a lot of the story forward. So getting this right is key. I like the idea of, what if she was, because what I'm thinking for Roger is like, there's the distinct, like he needs to have something, even if the hook for him to hang out with these is like a caring nature, like she's pregnant or something. If it's like he's 15, she's 26, and it's his sister, and they were with like her husband or boyfriend or something, but he's split and left them high and dry. So then like the brother's taking care of the sister because she's like getting super pregnant. But they don't really have anything to lean on. That's just one aspect. Like him caring for her would motivate his desire to like take care of her. But something about them, like they have to not be in too bad a spot, or even if they're in a bad spot, they're very optimistic about it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what's going to like change his character, is like, if they're like, we're in so much trouble, we need help. Like, I don't think he's going to be even more uptight, like trying to make things work. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to develop him at all.
Yeah. Then think about this, because I think it's a little bit of a kill your darling type territory. It's just 15. And he basically has a conversation with him and he's like, how old are you? And he's like, I'm 15.
I do at the beginning when you said he goes by 15. It's like he's like, "What's your name?" He's like 15. He's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, how old are you? How old are you?" He's like 15. He's like,
where are you from?
Did you get that? He's like, yeah. He's like, when did you get that tattoo? He's like, the day I turned 15. Like, I don't know, just like him being a punk about it. It's funny. So it's just him. And at first he approaches him and he's mad and he's like, hey, you got me fired, yada, yada. And
maybe he goes a separate way.
Like,
he like, we don't have to like keep them in that scene. It's just like,
I don't think they keep him in the scene. He just gets frustrated. He gets mad. He leaves them.
15 drives off.
And then he's 15 years old and driving around.
Yeah, I think that's really compelling. He's living completely outside of the law. Like, he's obviously a runaway.
And then I think, okay, cool. I think that's a good, like a point. Then we kind of montage. We have this thing like of him trying to find.
Yeah, we have
jobs.
some Zoloft, appearances.
That thing comes around. Let's say that the family, his family, went on a long-term like summer hiking something.
Yeah,
because I kind of want them to like. I want there to be this almost like subconscious time clock for him where he's like, oh, they just left, and he doesn't want to be like they're jobless. Like, he wants to be doing better when they get back.
His daughter calls him and is like, how's work or whatever, and he's like, it's good. And we see him just kind of scrolling through LinkedIn. Filling out
in his mind, he's
a manager from for 4 years at REI.
He in his mind, he's like, I have to be doing better than when they get back. Like, I can't be jobless when they get back. Because I think that's a good motivator. And like him going to like some interviews, and I picture at some point he goes to an interview and he sees the van again, and he's starting to catch glimpses of like how not good this kid's doing.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting in that initial confrontation that they have, not the first one, but the one where after he gets fired, that he sees like a wad of cash in
like 15 has
that 15 has just a ton of cash in in a backpack, and he's just like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then this next time, he comes out of a job interview that goes terrible. We see a montage of him interviewing and he just keeps bungling it. And they're like, so what do you do? Blah, blah, blah. What do you want to do? Oh, and they're like, he's too old for the roles that he's trying to get, and they want fresh meat, and he doesn't have any other real skills, which might be why his wife initially divorced him, is that he just kind of was a bum, a polite.
I feel like it's like not even full bum level as much as he's just like, he lacks ambition. Like, he's kind of just not trying.
Yeah.
Like, not like to the point of like bum, but just like I don't know. He just like has resided to be like not win. Kind of like he's just kind of decided that's.
Yeah. He's ambitionless. And there's something really thematically tied to the fact that the stepdad can take the daughter and the mom on adventures out into the wilderness safely, and he kind of just cosplays. He just sells the gear that another more effective man can use. I like that. I like that parallelism of like, they're going on real adventures, and he's like just living in the store that. Yeah, he like sees his ex-wife's feed on Instagram and the stepdad or whatever, and he's just like, yeah, and he's like ripped, he's shredded.
It's just like he just doesn't talk. He's just, yeah, man, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, get my girl over here. He's got his daughter on his lap, and they're like, oh, ha, 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 and he's like throws her off a dock, into some water or something. And, he's everything that he isn't. He's the foil. And he's like gregarious. And I think the turn that we take is that the stepdad's actually just a good dad. He's not like cheating on the mom. You know, I feel like other stories might go that direction, but it's just Roger is a failure. He's failed as a man to provide for his family. And so then one day he's like, he sees the van out there again. They went their separate ways. They, you know, maybe 15 spit on him or something like that. And he's like, get back, drives off, whatever. And then finally he sees the car again and he comes up and, or maybe he sees 15 begging for food outside of like a McDonald's or something. And he goes up and he gives him some food. You know, and he's like, what do you want, kid? And they go inside and they order and it's kind of awkward. And he's like, 8-piece nugget, you know, or whatever. And then they're just kind of silently eating outside. And he's like, what do you do? You know, because the 15, again, is like a monkey. He's a completely untamed man. And so there's this interesting aspect of 15 needs to be domesticated. And yet Roger is overly domesticated.
Yep.
And so
I like that.
You know,
they're like the two sides of the spectrum.
Yes.
They need each other a little bit, like, because 15's obviously, I don't know where you were going with that bag of money. But like, yeah, that could raise quite, like, it's like he just stole the stuff and he had money or whatever. And it's like, why are you begging for food? Like, I saw that you had cash. And he's just like, I don't know. Like, he just wants to interact with people. He just wants to talk to people. It's like the only time of day that someone actually will talk to him. And even then it's like, you know, barely. I don't know. I feel like if you wanted to go that direction, if you just cut the money out, he's just barely getting by. That makes sense that he would be starving and would go up and whatever. But, you know, he tells him like, it's surprising how long a Baconator can last when you eat like one bite a day. Something like that, you know. That's a good line. That's a good Zach Lovelace line. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's sad, pathetic. I really like pathetic characters. I identify with them heavily. I imagine whether it's like this instance or maybe the second, like they run into each other again, I feel like there's like a point where, I don't know, some reason the conditions are not great. Like it's like excessively cold or something. And he's like, you just grab your stuff and like follow me and you can stay at my place, like at my apartment tonight or something. And like, it continues to escalate. And since we're just making the outline, we don't need to like hash out every single detail. But I think like the meat of the story, like you said, is like them helping each other, like him helping this kid get domesticated and this kid like helping him loosen up and like have fun. Be a little more wild. Be wild, teach him to climb. Fast forwarding to like maybe the 3/4 in the movie, like you said, like at some point, I don't know, the kid shows him how to get on Instagram or something. Like he doesn't really do that. And then he makes an Instagram, and then the family like out like in the Swiss Alps or wherever they are, they're like, wait, I got a notification. Is this dad? Does dad have an Instagram? And it's like him climbing and stuff. And they're like, what? And then I think that's like a funny, cute scene. Oh yeah. I do think that he would be social media adept, you know, because he's just spying on people. Like we said before, he can see the stepdad. Yeah. You know, and he knows enough. He's just a lurker though. He doesn't make any content. Whereas like you can make that turn happen where he makes a post. Yeah. I think establishing, he lurks and he sees these people posting, and like he like at the end of the day he's in his apartment and he like has like kind of like a poorly composed like lit selfie in REI, and he's like thinking of posting it, and he's like another, and then like you can see him start writing a caption and he just like gets worked up and he deletes it. He's just like, this isn't worth sharing. And then I like that thread of eventually he has stuff that's worthwhile, that's like exciting for him to share. He's like, I'm doing this. And maybe in the time he's still kind of doing some job, but he's like letting the gas off a little on the job search. He becomes a dirtbag. He gets sucked into the underground subculture of rock climbing, homeless people rock climbing, which is a thing.
where guys just live out of their van and they just go rock climb. And so he is like sitting around campfires, freezing his buns off, and I like a tiny little scene where, he's climbing and he has his phone, he's trying to take a picture, or maybe he gets like a notification or whatever, and he opens it up and it's the stepdad has posted another thing, and his phone falls and it gets cracked or whatever. But down below him, before he can get down there, 15 opens up his phone and is like looking at the stepdad or whatever. And he's like, oh, this guy, like there's nothing real about this guy, whatever. He's like, you should tell him to like F off, like on the, leave a comment. He's like, I don't leave comments. And he's like, you just did. And then like 15 like told him like F off, like put a shirt on, and he's like teaching him to pick a fight basically. And, they learn more about each other, but I think just taking Roger deeper into the dirtbag culture, I think is the way to go.
I like that. And it almost feels like it's more for Roger. Like there's not a lot of stuff that he's providing for 15. Like I guess he's providing like,
well, I think maybe
some food and
shelter,
maybe he maybe like a role model, because he doesn't really have like
he would take him to events. He's model. Like, you want to go to Thanksgiving? And they just show up and Roger's hands are all bloody and like taped up and stuff. And he's lost like 15 pounds and he shows up and it's like, what did he bring? And he brings like a 6-pack or something like that. And he gets invited to, maybe that's what he gets invited to the stepdad's Thanksgiving, and it's a big thing. And the stepdad is, roasting a Boston butt or something like that, some crazy thing, and is posting about it. And he's like telling 15, I get invited to these things all the time. Like the guy's a great guy, he invites me to things, and he's like, well, you should go. And he's like, no, I never go. And he's like, well, what if I want to go? And then they go, he sees the daughter and is maybe kind of falling for the daughter. I like the idea that the daughter has a prom, she's 18, she's about to graduate.
Oh man.
You see where I'm going?
Well, I like the idea of like there's prom of like them meeting. Like, yeah, I feel like this is
and
happening.
15 sneaks into the prom, obviously, and like fights.
Yeah, well, I was even, he could sneak in, but I also think there's like something to like most of this story. He's fine. He's content being the dirtbag, and he likes going to the places. But then like, with Roger's helping to civilize him a little bit, and when he like gets, he wants to go to the prom with the daughter, and he needs Roger's help to like, he doesn't know anything about like, how do I get a suit and how do I do this and how do I don't know how to dance anything. And
it's beauty that draws 15 up and out of the wilderness. It's what gets him to realize he's insufficient, because the daughter comes around. Danielle, she comes around and she thinks he stinks. He's uncouth. He's an animal. He's just too wild, obviously. So she's giving him a call to come up and out of the wilderness, to remain, virile, obviously, and strong, and masculine. But it's about masculinity. The movie's about masculinity and just being able to strike the balance needed of the protector who has the wild in him, but it's a tamed wild. That can be employed when necessary. So the interactions with Danielle and 15, that's what ends up causing. I like 15. I always really liked stories as a kid growing up where it was like a younger guy falling in love with an older girl. And it's like the age gap, the age gap thing where it's like, oh man, you feel that longing, but then obviously 15 has a terribly tragic story. He's a runaway, and something happened, and I have a fate for 15 that I really like, but we'll get there.
A fate for 15. All right. Well, I can also pitch kind of where I feel like this movie ends up a little bit, but I do want to hear yours too, and then we can kind of blend or combine them a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a prom scene. There's a fight scene between Roger and the stepdad, because I think the stepdad represents fake masculinity. in some capacity, but he's still a good guy. Like, you know, it might be something that just is more one-sided than anything else. But yeah, I think the wife is kind of an underutilized character right now too. Or the ex-wife.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously we're moving fast. We're kind of just flying over and like hitting these highlights. I'm unsure about the fight, although I feel like if the fight happens early enough, the prom feels like it's more towards the end. Like we're getting more towards the conclusion potentially. Like if the I feel like a fight could potentially happen earlier because like that in a sense is Roger misconstruing. Like he still has a misunderstanding of masculinity. He's like, hey, I'm like this wild climber now.
He swung too far.
I'm gonna fight you. And then because I do want this kind of at the end, this realization of like, he's comfortable. He knows who he is and he's confident in who he is. Like, I feel like that's where Roger needs to end up, where he is like, he is part of that family, but it's not like he doesn't feel like an outsider. He's like his own thing, but then he just feels confident in that. So if the fight happens, that can be because he's like, oh, this was dumb. Like I thought I was being manly and whatever, but it's like his realization that that's not what it was. And then, although the prom could be like, the prom might be a good place where all this happens. I feel like prom can either be like the big culmination for 15 where he gets it all together, or it's like he tries to get it together and then like
it backfires.
Kids make fun of him.
Yeah.
And he just like runs off.
I like that. I like that because what is it for Roger? He goes too far and that's what pulls him back. To like, he's up and out of the ditch of the wild man ditch. And now he's on like the right side of the road where he like is okay defending himself. He's not being walked on. And he's like, no, I don't, you know, he'll voice his opinion about whatever. He'll tell his daughter that he wants, him to come have Thanksgiving with her one time or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he'll say like, I think it's best that you spend some time with me. And, maybe there is a love interest for Roger. I do think that's another good conclusive thing.
I think that would just have to be, we'd have to establish some other side character that somehow knows him, whether that's like at the school or like, I'm not exactly sure who that would, but like, I agree.
Somebody within the rock climbing scene could be interesting. Like maybe to train before they go out to the mountain. 15 is like a spot that people love, is this stone summit, you know, giant indoor rock climbing wall. And there's like a manager there so she's kind of the representative of like the tamed rock climbing, not totally wild.
Yeah. I was going to say she shouldn't be wild because I feel like Roger needs to come back to the surface at some point.
Yeah.
But like renewed and refreshed and a new man.
Yeah.
And I do picture this scene, like maybe this is after everything breaks.
Oh, I got the ending, dude. I got the ending. I got it. Go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead.
Well, hold on. I want to say my scene. I do, and you can tell me if this fits in, but I do picture like some sort of like come to Jesus moment where like Roger, like, I don't know, gets a black eye from the guy, and like Aaron's daughter's like, I can't believe you did this. And then he like goes off looking for the kid. And then like there's kind of like this, like he finds them and they're sitting watching, I don't know, the sunrise or whatever wherever you want to place them. And it's this kind of realization of like, hey, we don't have it all together yet, but like it's time to like figure it out. Like we gotta like figure out what, like, hey, it's been fun being these dirtbags. It's been fun like me not doing it, but like we got to take what's good about that and we got to bring the worlds together a little bit here.
Yeah.
And that's going to like the moment, like your little montage of them starting to get things back together. Before we get to the end of the movie.
And it's conversational.
Story. Yeah. It's like, it's not just like it's like them talking and them being disappointed in themselves and how things went.
Yeah. They finally have the conversation they need to have.
Yeah. I want to hear your ending. Where does it go?
So I think going off of what you're saying, I'll get to the ending. I think having the wife come in, you know, she's present, the ex-wife, that she comes in and kind of gives like a nice punctuation mark, like a knowing, recognizing the change in him, you know, kind of thing. And it's time for him to let go of his family, not let go insofar as like, you know, But he's become his own thing. And that's where finding this other woman would be the case. But I think that's the ending, okay? I think the ending is actually that he shows up at this indoor rock climbing thing. Have you ever been to like a stone summit?
I'm not a stone summit, but I think I have a picture of indoor rock climbing.
It's just huge. It's all it is. It's not like, because at REI you can rock climb on like the one single wall, but there's one, they go like way up, like 100 feet up.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, or I don't know if it's 100
Nice.
feet, but you know what I mean? And so they go there and train, and he gets like, you know, he gets 15 to help him to kind of comfortably learn how to climb there. And then they go out and they conquer a mountain at one point, and they rock climb the mountain together. And
I like it.
And so they're up there, and you know, that's like 15's scene. And he kind of confesses to him at the top of the mountain, confesses to Roger. He's like, I don't think I ever want to go back to living in society. Like, this is just what I want. And you know, this is maybe after he got his heart broken at the prom. He snuck in and got rebuffed by Danielle, and even though they had come closer, and she was kind of teasing him a little bit, not teasing him like making fun of him, but like leading him on a little bit. You know, did my dad's weird pet project kind of thing. And then one morning, and I imagine that Roger lets 15 crash at his place. I think his name, the origin of his name, is probably key to this thing. Like when they climb the mountain that one evening, and they finally get up there. That he tells him like the kind of sad story of his life that, you know, is, I kind of like this. This is maybe dumb, and maybe there's a better idea attached to how dumb this is, but he's like the 15th kid in his family. Like his mom, like had so many partners or whatever. And he ends up just like, I'm number 15. And I think that's just kind of a, you know, it's a little ridiculous. But I do think that it just implies like a totally broken home. And he went into the foster care system, and that's all they would tell him about his mom was like, you were her 15th kid. So he just decided to start going by 15.
I gotcha.
Something along those lines. Maybe a little, you know, it was better than like him being a football player at some point and having a jersey, or a basketball player or something like that. Like, you know, it had an actual relational meaning. And he decides like he's a kid born out of time, like he has no dad, and so obviously he's drawn to Roger as being like kind of buttoned up guy. He looks like a dad. He has a dad's shape, you know, and yeah, but he's
got a dad shape.
Yeah, like he has the appearance of a dad, but he is missing the fundamental component, and that's what they help each other, you know, get. And so, but you come to find out that like 15 is just too broken. You know, Danielle was kind of the last thing. And so one morning, the whole time they were thinking about, they climbed this little mountain, and there's this larger peak that they were going to go climb together at some point. When Roger was strong enough, they were going to kind of do it. And he's like, other guys have done it. And that's how they know that they're men, you know, because they have accomplished this thing. They went up and they climbed this peak. And one morning Roger wakes up and 15 isn't there. And it's obvious that he's gone off to try the thing. Even though like people have gotten hurt doing it before or whatever. I don't know if he's free soloing or if he's like, you know, climbing a path that already exists. But he gets there and come to find out that 15 has fallen to his death. That there was like a loose hook that somebody had put years ago that finally broke, you know, so maybe he wasn't free soloing, or maybe he was free soloing and he slipped. But he was on his way to climb this mountain, you know, symbolically trying to achieve the wild masculinity, or what his idea was of just like being out on the frontier and just doing it himself. And he ends up falling and dying. And it just totally messes with Roger. I think that's the left turn that's needed. It's like, it's not, because you stick the landing. To stick the landing is like, okay, Danielle and 15 get together and he has a new son. Like he's adopted him and he kind of forms a new family from that. Whereas with 15's death, it's like, oof, okay. It's the cautionary tale a little bit of like, you know, you can't be that wild. It'll kill you.
Yeah. You know, that's a Zach Lovelace ending for you.
Leave you a little bit on an empty stomach, you know?
But normally I feel like I would push back against it, but I also feel like it fits this story really well. I think it is kind of that twist that you're like, oh no, it didn't. Like, obviously Roger kind of through 15 develops like a new persona. Like he finds out what he's missing, and to degree 15 also does that, but it's a bit more what is that book I'm trying to Brave New World? Like, like I can't, the whole idea of like I don't fit in here. Like, this is not for me, and like him kind of deciding for himself that this is not where I go. And then unfortunately, yeah, it's like a weird closure for Roger, because then it's kind of this kid that got him fired from his job, who was just around for this short period of time, like helped him turn his entire life around and change how he thought about himself. Like, the more he hangs out with 15, the less this little ball of depression would pop up, until it just didn't anymore.
Yeah, and maybe
I like that. I like that a lot. That it's like it's super bittersweet, but it's like this kid helped him a lot, and he got to help this kid for a little while. But then,
yeah, there's a little bit of the question is like, which one of them will survive, because both of them are on a suicidal kind of track. You know, with Roger with his medicine, his depression medicine, and his life, maybe a little bit of drinking. Clearly just like veering into self-neglect and whatnot, on a path of slow self-destruction, or the kind of fast and loose self-destruction of 15. And, you know, he has the kid buried, pays for it, whatever. He's got to get another job at some point. We kind of skipped over that, but I guess
yeah, I imagine he finds something. Like, I think he regains some new confidence in himself.
Maybe he gets his job back.
No. I feel like he's doing better than that. I think if anything, he works.
Or well, if he's a dirtbag
gym with the girl or something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is that as a dirtbag, he wouldn't need a job. Like, he would just live in the van, and you know, maybe he lets his rent. You know, he tells off his landlord or whatever, and that's part of him kind of standing up for himself. But but I do like the ending is him showing up to the Stone Summit indoor gym really early, you know, post funeral. You know, this is like however many days after, and he just shows up and starts climbing, and he makes it to the top, and he looks down and he sees the manager lady, and she's like, you know, clapping for him, and she's the only other person in there, and the credits roll as he comes back down, and they start talking.
I like that. And yeah, at some point I do think he gets maybe some sort of job. Like, I feel like that's like like he dives into this world.
Or yeah, maybe he gets a job there, like you said, and she's walking him around. Or
yeah, something like that. It's, I don't know if that seems too hokey, if that's his like love interest, that he works at the same place that she does. But
I think if you just imply it, like, if you just imply that it's going to be that way, because that's what that ending I just pitched you is like. It's not that that he even really knows her name. It's just that she is like the older kind of smoky, you know, she's got a rough past too a little bit, but she's making the most of what she can do. She's happy, you know, and, you know, joyful at what she does or whatever. She doesn't ask for much. But then she sees him like being able to climb. And I think that's kind of an interesting symbolic measure, is that he does the controlled masculinity, like the meekness of power, power with self-control. And so he's able to climb that. And it's like, oh, whoa. And maybe he comes down and maybe they talk for a minute, and she's like, do you want a job here? I just got another, you know, one of my other dudes just, you know, quit on me. And he's just like, yeah, I don't know. Or maybe they just start talking and walking, and then it just ends. Again, kind of that unresolved, like you don't really know what's going to happen if he gets the job there or not. It doesn't really matter. You just know that it's on the horizon for him.
Yeah, I like that. Like the relationships on the horizon, the jobs on the horizon. Like it's all there, but it's like we don't have to stay around and show it all, or anything like that. Yeah, I like it, Zach. I think we made our first story.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. I think it's way more heartfelt. It's got, again, that's pathetic characters, and then sudden death. Those are kind of my two big things I love.
Those are your big trump cards that you love to use.
But it's ultimately a drama because it doesn't give you the comedy is the happy ending. That used to be the two divisions, was just comedy is anything that ends with a happy ending. Literally, even if it's not like funny, like that's just the Greek category of like a happy ending. And then drama had a tragic ending. So just
I think I was trying to think of a title, and I feel like something like if I was scrolling through Netflix, I could just imagine something like called The Boy Named 15 or something like that, or trying to think of something else. Because it is like centered, like he is the most unique thing in this story. That's kind of driving the things, but or just called 15 or Roger the REI guy. No, not that.
Yeah,
I'm Roger and I work at REI.
Something, yeah.
But I like it, man.
Yeah, I like it too. I'm very impressed with us because it starts off so
kind of silly, kind of like pathetic and silly, and
even just the ideas of like rolling for something, and it's like it's so distant from me. It's so at arm's length. I don't care about it, but in a good way, where you are just free, kind of lets that part of your creative part of your brain just like, okay, look, so I'm going to go here now. I'm going to go there. When you said the shoplifting thing, I was like, this is boring. I mean, I literally said that, but like, but it is a good inciting incident for this type of story. So, and I like it feels fresh. I think that's the other thing, the whole dirtbag subculture and a kid who is young. I think the CGI character thing took a backseat, but we wove it in.
Yeah, and that's kind of, as far as this game goes, like I think certain things will take a backseat if they don't serve the story naturally. They're just kind of helpful springboards. I feel like this whole story could probably be better without the CGI character now that we're to the end of it, and which is fine. Like it's more just methods to help us. Like I said at the beginning, we're like rules guys, and it's like having creative constraints like turns up the dial on creativity a lot of times. Because
you want to find a way out.
It's like I also agree, like a kid shoplifting is not the most interesting story beginning for me, but I like where we ended up. Like, and I'm more driven by comedy and whimsy. I'm not like the heavy drama guy, but we got to the end of this and I'm like, this is a cool story. Like, this is very interesting. And I love that we kind of just stumbled upon all this parallelism between 15 and Roger and the stepdad. And like, there's all of these conflicting, contrasting ideas that just kind of naturally came up.
The themes really emerged very quickly as soon as we decided it was I guess that was part of the prompt, was that it was a young man or, a guy. But yeah, then the REI thing, I think, really helped set us into the subculture stuff, I think, is what really gives it freshness. It's not that the story is something you haven't seen before. It's the subcultures. It's the characters, where they're coming from. Because the same kind of story could be told about, anything. The wilderness aspect I love. The REI being like a tamed, safe wilderness. And yeah, I don't know. I like the guy trying to, his want was to like be taken more seriously. But his need was that he needed to become a man to be taken more seriously.
Like he needed to be someone worth taking more seriously, because the way he was acting and living beforehand was, people were just kind of passing him by.
Yes. I think digging into the wife character is probably the one untapped thing that we have for us here, but keeping her kind of in the wings until that like pivotal moment near the end where she comes in and formally recognizes the changes that he's been in and kind of gives the audience like, this is a different man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yeah, anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I think it's good. I think we can call a wrap on this story, and I think it was a successful first episode, and I think we can close out this podcast episode.
Nice.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. If you made it this far, thanks for listening to our story about Roger the REI guy and 15.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Tune in for future episodes. And I've been Tommy Antonucci.
And I have been I've been Zach Lovelace.
You're the other one.
I'm the other one.
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.